Hey, joining me on this call today are three of my partners. First of all, I'll introduce Carl Post. Carl is a veteran of many organizations, worked with me when I was the CMO of Eastman Kodak, heading business development, was a franchise executive for numerous years with Sir Speedy and Pip and a whole number of franchises, franchise services. And so we're glad to have him. He'll be joining us. Tricia Ben is a former CMO of a $2 billion ad holding company. She oversees all of our community, and she's with us here today. And then also Paul Peterson. Paul is running our fund. He's with Pacifica Capital Management and is my co-fund manager. And we'll be joining to be able to answer any questions you have. And I'm going to go through a brief presentation to talk about this opportunity. We're basically raising a $50 million fund, minimum investment $100,000, and obviously the maximum investment's $50 million, but we'll be doing that and doing that as an Opportunity Zone fund, which is located in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, with all of the proper paperwork that's associated with that already being done. And we're looking forward to the opportunity. We're running this as an income fund, so that should be noted, so that we're paying back the principal initially, and then utilizing the profits that we have as disbursements for dividends and then other opportunities. And we'll talk more about that as we get into it. So with that, I'm going to do my best to take you through a brief presentation, have lots of opportunity for questions, so that if you have questions, either jot them down in the chat room or we'll take them at the very end, but we'll do our best to get to them as we go and try to address everything that we can. We're showing this investment primarily, and I'm going to do that through the CSuite Network. And so we'll be showing it as a CSuite Network investment. We'll be utilizing the funds that we have through the Opportunity Zone Fund to invest in the CSuite Network growth and all of its platforms, but also in some other businesses that we see that we can acquire that will be accretive to the work that we're doing. So we're doing that as a CSuite Network fund, a venture fund that we call the CSuite Network Opportunity Fund, and then, of course, tied into our CSuite Network. So when you look at the CSuite Network, we're a trusted network for executive and businesses to grow their lives, their knowledge, their business with content, services, and connections. When you look at that, we call this the honeycomb because what the work we're doing is sweet in itself. We have a networking, education, professional services, a marketplace, and media. And let's talk about that for a moment. On the networking and education side, we do a number of events, well over 300 digital events last year. We had to pivot a little bit during COVID, but it worked out very well for us in both attendance and the number of members that we sell and the participation. So we run executive briefings. We have a digital discussion. For instance, next week, we'll have the founder of Famous Dave's. We have the CEO of, we've had the CEO of numerous companies that have come in, from Crunch Fitness to Ben & Jerry's to the founder of Rainforest Cafe. And we do digital discussions with a number of our members and executives who come and join us. Our digital briefings are webinars much like this. Our C-Suite celebrates every Friday. We'll have our 100th coming up in a week where we get together and celebrate at the end of the week. And next is our professional services, which I mentioned Carl Post leads. And this is professional services that we provide to the businesses because we're helping them be the brand of you, meaning we help those executives promote themselves as well as their business. And we have services for them to be able to participate in and help them grow those businesses. And the marketplace side, we have a way in which the executives can interchange with each other. We sell, again, some other services like C-Suite loans. We just did a new one called the ERC tax credit. We did supplies during COVID, but a number of places where people can participate in the marketplace, and I'll touch base on all of these a little bit later. And certainly last but not least, and this is where I'll be spending most of our time, is our growth in the area of media with C-Suite Book Club, our C-Suite TV, our C-Suite Radio, which is our podcast network. We're the largest business podcast network in the world, and we are growing at about 170%, so lots of great opportunity. When you look at the problem that's facing executive organizations, there are a number of traditional market leaders out there, EO, Vistage, BNI, and they have upwards of a couple 100,000 members. Most of them set at about 10 to 20,000 members. They've got an initiation fee. They're in numerous countries around the world. But when you start to look at them, they very much are like monthly meetings, what we'd call step one, table talking, step two, business card exchange, and then the third would be some kind of annual pilgrimage to some event. And we've seen over the last couple of years, those days are done. We're starting to see some of those live events come back, but most people are still digging and loving the digital meetings and these digital interactions that most of these organizations do not have. In fact, you'll see that none of the organizations, which I showed to you a minute ago, have even made any transition since the pre-digital age. All of these groups started in what we would call the pre-digital age, and none of these groups even have apps to be able to offer their services, to be able to tap into the information, and they certainly don't have the media. So they don't have that, what we call content, community, and then commerce. And we'll show a little bit more into that. So their old model has been continuously a way in which that they've got to do face-to-face meetings. They have a heavy business card bias. Their Rolodex is their only reach. They're limited into small, medium businesses. I'll show a little bit of that. And it's kind of a good old boys referral network with emails and newsletters, and not having all the traditional tools that we would love to be able to see now and what they have and how they'd be able to run that business. So when you look at the market penetration, there are about 28 million businesses in North America today, and yet those four top peer organizations are only topping at about 300,000. So when you look at that, 0.01% of the market share in terms of the businesses. Sorry, I'm getting a little bit of where it's not moving ahead. There we go. When we look at the total membership, the minimum market share, if we look at what's available in the market today, you can see that thin red line is the penetration in this particular market. So there's a lot more opportunity for all of us. When people say, oh, it's already full, with BNI having 250,000, Vistage with 22,000, E&O with 13, and LaTip hanging in there at 2,000. And by the way, it's been around for 20, 30 years, and that's all they've been able to grow. There's a lot more opportunity for business in this market. So what we think is that there's this new solution for this, and it's combining the membership or the activity of getting involved, that is the community, the marketplace where you can do business, and the platform being the media side of this. And we're gonna, again, talk more about that media and our high growth and our profitability there. When you look at marketplace positioning, you'll see that LaTip really focuses on that very small business. You'll see BNI focuses on still a small business, but 10 million and below. EO is focused in on that entrepreneur, on only entrepreneurial businesses primarily, anywhere from about that $15, $20 million range and down. Vistage focus a little bit more on the mid, well, we start getting towards those mid cap or a little bit closer to 100 million, but still that they're a coaching model. They're really the business around selling to coaches and getting coaches to run the business. And of course, our CSuite network, we actually reach all of the business in North America and then many businesses outside the world, because we're not just limited to North America. So when we look at we've really got a turnkey solution of moving beyond what we call business cards with a content platform to drive reach, discovery, and conversion, because we're helping businesses to take their content and grow their lives, their knowledge, their business. And that becomes a key differentiation from all the other networks that are out there: brand development, production support, business tools, operational setup, influencer introductions, strategic memberships, advisory coaching, and a whole host of other services in the things that we do. So the new model allows us for content, community, and commerce, a way for us to digitally deploy for scale, and lots of revenue opportunities, as we'll show you as we go through this presentation, with marketplace for products and service, and certainly a greater stickiness. So when we look at these areas of the honeycomb, I'm primarily going to concentrate on networking, education, and media. With professional services, the marketplace, those are to me table stakes. But let's talk about the differentiation with networking and education. And by the way, it should be noted that the other networks that are out there today don't offer. The only thing they do offer is networking education. They don't offer professional services. They don't offer a marketplace, and they don't offer media. So let's talk a little bit about this. So what we do is we serve on what we call a good, better, best model, where we have members who have opted in, a little over 350,000. We then move them to an executive level, and then they can participate in this. You see this gold box here, what we call councils. Those are peer-to-peer networks that are premium members. So they go from $1,000 at the level of executive to a premium member, anywhere from 2,500 to 20 or 30,000. And then, of course, we're selling services that Carl and his team do. And those contracts typically is 75,000, 100,000, 150,000, and even more in terms of those services. When you look at our reach, we're well over 1 million of executive reach. We have over 400 influencers that are active in our community to help us market. You'll see that our digital meetings were a little over 300 this last couple of years. And then prior to COVID, we were doing 100+ in-person meetings. We're on target to do that again this next year, plus keep the digital meetings. Our database is about 350,000 executives. Our newsletter goes out to about 59,000. You can see our reach on TV is 90 million. And our C-Suite radio, need to probably even look to update that. I just saw that this morning, we're hitting close to 2 million a month and 1 million on social reach. You'll see the breakdown of the kinds of companies that we're serving: $1 billion or greater, 100 million to 10 million, and of course at 5 million to and smaller. You'll see those in terms of that kind of reach. Our convening opportunities, we have, I mentioned, over 300 events, digital meetings. We have a capital conference. We have lots of salons like Scotch Sundays and other meetings that we do. We're getting together on a regular basis in places like Dallas and Boston and Atlanta. We've got a number of those scheduled. Thought summits, our conferences, special events, and we're co-loading a lot of educations. You know, Trish and the team have really brought forth a pretty exciting group of people where we're partnering with folks. In fact, we're leading the efforts at many of these other conferences and co-locating with them, which is great, great for the bottom line and really great for the top line, because it provides for education, networking, it's driving content capture, it's giving us acquisition for closing events, sponsorship revenue, and of course, delivering on what we call partner value and positioning. The other thing that we did, I mentioned, was the councils. These are our premium councils. These are councils, peer-to-peer councils. Many people might even call them masterminds to some extent, where we either own them or people will license them from us, like the C-Suite Network, Women's Coaching and Consulting Council, the Manufacturing Council, the Lone Star Council, the Veterans Council, Success North Dallas. These are all groups where they're premium membership. They get an executive membership, but they're also paying a premium membership upwards of $10,000, $20,000 for each of those. So what we do is we license these out. This is our model. We license these out. They could be open or closed, fee-based. They could be full or partial C-Suite benefits, and they could be sponsored, not sponsored. Many of our thought leaders and a lot of our corporations are coming forth and asking us to help them organize these and help them run this. This is a major source of revenue for us and growth for us into the future. And of course, we receive annual fees between $20,000 and $40,000 just to license them. And then we receive executive memberships and revenue splits on each of those meetings. Some of these we run, like our Hero Club. This happens to be a Hero Club for CEOs, value-based. They have to sign a pledge. They pay $10,000 a month. We took this organization over when it had 27 members and now well over 100+ members. And so it's a great revenue source for us and good programming and lots of other things that spin out of that, especially on the professional services. This happens to be our C-Suite Network advisors. I mentioned we have over 400 of those. This cost for this is a $2,500 premium. And of course, we have another split out of this organization called our Thought Council, where people are paying $10,000. Just wanted to give you a little flavor for those as we move forward. Now I want to jump into the media and then jump into other questions, but I think you'll find this be very exciting because this is a high growth area. Today we have C-Suite TV. We have over 75 shows with digital streaming broadcasts, got great reach and instant market penetration. We've got about 90 million views per month. We're in 70 top airports. We're in 1 million luxury hotel rooms. We're in 59.4 million households because we broadcast in 36 markets, primetime Sunday, right up against.
Hang on 1 second, Jeff. Hang on 1 second.
Yeah.
And the only reason why I'm asking you to hang on is this is super impressive. Like, how the hell did you do this, right? So can you give us a little backstory on that before you move on and how you got this?
Yeah, this is, and I'll take it to the next slide too, because we're doing it in 3 areas. Digital side where you can watch it on .com, you can watch it on streaming through Roku, Amazon Fire, you can do View TV, we can do Apple TV, and then of course we're broadcasting on United Airlines and others captivate when you see us in the, for instance, Arthur, we're in the building you're at in New York City today. You probably got in the elevator. You would have seen some of our content on that elevator. When I was the chief marketing officer Eastman Kodak, I went on to become a judge on Celebrity Apprentice. And for 3 years, I learned a little bit about the TV business. And then when I left, I started my own show on Bloomberg. And while I was on Bloomberg, Arthur, they came to me and said, "You're getting more views digitally than you're getting on broadcast. What are you doing?" I said, "Doing my job. And we should start a digital network." At that time, Bloomberg didn't want to do that. So I turned to Carl and team and said, let us go do that. And we created CSuite TV. That was our first entree into this. And now we're one of the leading providers of business content, and we're putting TV, video, wherever we can. With the onset of podcasting now, we're going to more than double the number of shows this year. Okay, double the number of shows this year and the amount of content we have. And we're starting to monetize that content with advertising. And that's going to be a significant move. It hasn't, it's been more digital pennies, quite frankly, with TV. And now we've got digital dollars with podcasts, and I'll show a little bit more about that. But thank you, it's a great question. Our lineup includes, 30 different topics. We got some great shows. We actually produce some of the shows ourselves. Like, for instance, this one I actually do called Executive Perspective Live. When we're live at an event, we'll be on stage. This happens to be the ambassador to Ireland for Mexico. And so we had a great discussion with her on the set of, or on the stage of Time Inc. And then we produce other shows like C-Suite Insights, where businesses come to us. We produce 3 to 7 minute episodes, and then we put those out on the network. We give those as embedded links so they can help promote and push that content. We do another TV show called Bestseller TV, where we feature authors of best-selling books. You can see Damon John on there. Last week, I think we had Deepak Chopra. We had the former governor of New York, Patterson on. It's amazing to see the kind of authors that we're having on these shows. Sorry about the going back and forth. And then I mentioned the elevator, so you can see our content in the elevator. Now I want to talk about the real gem and everything that we do, and that's our podcast network. We're the world's largest and first business podcast network. Podcasts are on fire. I'll show you another slide about that. 450 podcasts, business headliners. This is A-list topics and guests. You can name it. We're doing it. And what we do is we're able to show them and provide them with marketing, hosting, advertising, executive access, affiliation with the CSuite Network, and peer. So every single show that comes on our network pays us to host, because it got to be somewhere. We pay them, they pay us to host, and then we build out that business and we give them all the things that they need. And so on average, they're paying us about $2,500 a year, $250 monthly, and we split the advertising with them 50-50. And this business is growing at about 170% for us right now, with part-time, quite frankly, part-time people. As most of you probably know, the podcast industry is on fire. Every single indicating sign is up, up, and up, and it's not stopping. In fact, I think, Arthur, you and I were talking over the weekend, and you asked me about the maturity of the market. And I said, look, if you look and compare podcasting to an adult right now, it would look like about a 13-year-old. So we got a long ways to go, even though we think, hey, isn't there millions of podcasts? Yes, there are going to be millions more podcasts. There are going to be millions of TV shows. That's the unique way that we're moving into this market. When you look at the growth of the market, about 162 million people listen to a podcast, 116 listen monthly, 80 million listen weekly. More women are listening than ever before. And the fastest growing age is our marketplace, which is 55 or greater. And the average person listens to 8 podcasts a week from 5 different shows. That's important because affiliation is very key for podcast growth. For a person to grow their podcast, they could be in podcast purgatory, which just means they're on Apple or Roku, or Apple or Spotify or some other engine, or they can be affiliated with a network like ours so that they can hear this one and want to hear the next one. So it's growth, growth, growth. Podcasts have been trading at 100 times revenue. Let that sink in. Huge upside, 100 times revenue. And I'm not making this up. These are the actual articles. Parcast was $1 million in revenue, sold for $100 million. Gimlet was $3 million in revenue and sold for $300 million. So lots of opportunity. This is a first investment opportunity to dominate the world's largest business podcast network. We're at an inflection point because we're becoming one of the hottest platforms for all things business, and we have the ability to scale. And right now, this is at a pre-scale valuation in terms of what we're doing. The affiliation, I mentioned that you got to affiliate because it's hard for people to be in what I call podcast purgatory. And so what we do is we give shows like Robert Kiyosaki and others, we give them this little bug right here, this little identification that says they're part of C-Suite Radio. We network and market the entire network. We market individual shows as well. We typically will spend more on advertising than the shows will themselves because they really don't know how to market. They're great at creating content. By the way, Robert Kiyosaki said, I've shown him how to make more money in 8 months in podcasting than he's learned in 8 years in being in media. And that says something coming from a guy like Robert Kiyosaki. We provide digital meetings to them. We provide newsletters. We provide call to actions. We get our hosts together and we treat them just like any one of our thought groups or our councils so that we can help them to grow their business, to use their podcast to grow their business, grow their brand. And that's exactly what we do as we promote them. We give them guest referrals. We make sure that we're doing outbound advertising, outbound promotions. We position them as trusted advisors. And of course, they get to attend all of our meetings and they become celebrities in our marketplace because we make them that. On the analytics side, and I happen to have a podcast myself. I have this showing at all times on my desk, and it tells me exactly how many downloads, what countries they're coming from, what cities they're coming from, how long they listen, what devices. All that becomes very important for us in selling the advertising and in marketing. We get to see what the hot cities are, where we might want to put on the next program, and so forth and so on. And it changes the way you do your content too. For instance, I'll give you a good clear one. I used to say things like, hey, I'm going to go for a big juicy steak after the show. Well, I found out my second largest listening audience was India. Not something you want to say. So I changed the way that I did it, started talking about going out for a bindi and a curry. And of course, my listenership went way up. So we have, and these are all accessible by the host themselves, by their producers. So we give them all this data about themselves they didn't know. We give them an embed player. We help them with streamlining subscriptions. We give them all the necessary tools that they don't know that they could use. We show them how to use them, what they need to do. And then of course comes the amplification. So we do advertising, promotion. You'll see these are a couple of digital ads. These are a couple of our full page ads we're running in magazines, in business publications where we have partnerships. And so we make sure that we feature, this happens to be an ad on the left that's going out to manufacturers. Well, that's important because these are some of our manufacturing podcasts. So we can highlight them specific to the audience. Okay, wrapping up, almost done. We give them a marketing kit in terms of marketing the program. We give them everything that they need to know. Do it yourself. We do social activation. We do press releases. And then, of course, we give them all blogging opportunities. We can turn every single podcast into a blog, and that gives them even more reach than they've ever had before. And that's very important. Newsletter promotion. As I said, our newsletter is going out to tens of thousands of people. So we always make sure that we're highlighting them in our newsletter. And of course, this is the piece that resists salt, is the ad revenue. Right today, we have more ads than content. So we're looking for more and more shows and more content because we've got great advertisers. And by the way, that we're getting as much as 7 to 10 times more for our audience than the normal podcast audience, because our podcast is a highly influential and a very rich audience. So what we do is we make sure that we can put drop and drag ads, little markers in every single podcast that we have, excuse me, and we go out and charge for that. And so typically we will show a show what they can do. If they get 1,000 downloads, they have four spots for the year, they'll make $2,600. We make $2,600. Our average business podcast is about 2,500 per month, downloads per month. So the average is right smack in here, but many of our podcasts are well over 10,000 an episode when we're starting to see millions of downloads. So there's a potential for each show to make money. So they're using and making the podcast, so they're making money for themselves. And some of these are sizable checks. And of course, we make money. We split this with them 50-50, and we sell out on every single spot that we have. So it's really great. So our revenue drivers, this is how we make money. We have a platform access. We charge them between $1,500 to $3,000. Or if we're bringing in bigger networks, like for instance, I will tell you, with the investment dollars, we're looking to bring on a brand new network. We're going to turn in 50 podcasts. We're going to produce those podcasts, and we are going to see listeners into the tens of millions of listeners. And that's because of the existing group that they have. We have other groups, like recently announced the pharmacy podcast that Tricia had worked with, and we brought in 48 pharmacy podcasts. We have a nursing podcast network coming on, a mental health advocates podcast coming on. Again, what we do is we aggregate them, charge them, and then we also sell them startup services. We now starting to produce those podcasts. We've been using partners for that, but this is a great income producer. We're having a podcast university and obviously consulting. The real money for us has been in the advertising, for ad insertions and sponsor packets. So that's where the real money is for us, and the real growth is occurring for our scale. The business in 2022, it's going to be triple X again this year. I'm not going to make a prediction on what that is. Last year was 170%. We're going to do more than that this year. And so pretty excited. And we, of course, expand this for other services and groups that we have. So it's a pretty good scale on everything we have. We got a plan for scale. We're going to use the money for listener acquisition, for show acquisition. I mentioned we're going to build and buy some micro networks. We're going to go grab that content, get that content in as fast as possible, and we're going to either build it or buy it, either way. And then, of course, member referrals have been very good for us. It's got a long-term strategy, significant ROI, great consolidation, and obviously an opportunity for acquisitions for us as well. But we're really looking, and certainly if Paul wants to speak to this at some point during the Q&A, we're building, an income fund. That's what we're building. We're making money. We're doing well with it, and so it's really opportunities.